What's up, RotoBallers? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jorden Hill, and it's time to talk about some players that didn't come through for your fantasy teams in Week 14. Hopefully, they didn't cost you a spot in the fantasy playoffs, but we need to talk about what to do with these guys over the next few weeks. Just before we get into that though, make sure you subscribe to RotoBaller so that you don't miss out on any fantasy content for the rest of the season. Let's kick things off with Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Etienne was awesome during the middle portion of the season, but he's failed to eclipse double-digit half PPR fantasy points since Week 9, and he totaled just 32 yards on Sunday. Now, over the past 5 weeks, Etienne did have a bye, and he exited Week 12 early due to injury. He's been really disappointing in his other 3 contests though, and what's very concerning is that he played a full allotment of snaps in Week 14, but saw 0 targets in the passing game. It should be noted that he played a tough Tennessee run defense this week, but his schedule isn't getting any easier next week against the Dallas Cowboys, or even the week after that against the New York Jets. Whether or not you bench Etienne over the next 2 weeks is ultimately going to depend on what other options you have, but I don't view him as somebody you have to sit, considering the fact that we've seen many explosive plays from Etienne throughout the season. I definitely don't recommend dropping Etienne though, as he has a beautiful matchup against the Houston Texans for fantasy championships in Week 17. Hopefully, you make it there to play him. The next running back we're going to talk about is JAMAAL Williams of the Detroit Lions. Williams has been a touchdown machine this season, and despite scoring in 2 of the past 3 weeks, he's been really disappointing for fantasy as DeAndre Swift has seen an uptick in touches. Neither running back was good for fantasy this week, but Williams still operated as the primary first and second down back. I'm not ready to panic on him quite yet, as the Lions have a pretty appealing schedule for the fantasy playoffs, and their offense has been ticking as of late, scoring almost 33 points per game over the past 5 weeks. I'm still fine deploying Williams as a low-end RB2 or flex option with a lot of touchdown upside, especially in games that the Lions are projected to win, which should be the case for the remainder of the season. We do have another running back to discuss, and it's Michael Carter of the New York Jets. Carter seemed destined to take on the lead role in the Jets' backfield when Breece Hall went down earlier in the season, but that quickly changed when the team traded for James Robinson, and even though that didn't pan out, they've chosen to unleash Zonovan Knight over the past 3 weeks, and he's been really good in his opportunities. Carter went down with an injury in Week 12, forcing him to miss Week 13, but he returned this week to see just 5 carries for 5 yards, and he lost a fumble as well. The encouraging thing though is that he saw 6 targets, and he actually outsnapped the rookie Knight. It's still safe to say that Knight is the guy you want for fantasy purposes going forward, and Carter has entered must-bench territory for me. If there's someone out there on waivers that you'd feel comfortable putting in your starting lineup during the fantasy playoffs, I think it's okay to cut Michael Carter at this point. For the second straight week, I really don't see a lot to talk about at the wide receiver position. The most disappointing performance of the week absolutely goes to Stephon Diggs, who had his worst game of the season, but I don't think we need to talk about this. Just keep Diggs in your starting lineup and forget this game ever happened. Somebody that we should talk about though is Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who we brought up a few weeks ago, but things just haven't gotten better. I mentioned previously that Evans has kind of always been a boom or bust fantasy option, but this now marks 5 consecutive games in which Evans has posted fewer than 10 fantasy points. He did have a huge touchdown in this game called back due to a holding call, but apart from that, him and Tom Brady still didn't appear to be on the same page, and the Buccaneers offense continued to struggle. I'm officially in panic mode with Evans, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to bench him if you have another decent option. I definitely don't recommend dropping him though, as he's still seeing a good amount of targets, and if he explodes out of nowhere next week, it's better to happen on your bench than in your opponent's starting lineup. That'll do it for this week. Please remember to leave a like if you enjoyed, and comment down below what players are concerning you as we head into Week 15. Thanks again for tuning in, and best of luck in the fantasy playoffs.